Welcome to the Chase and Embrace Show, where we interview women who are chasing God and embracing His purpose for her life, with the hopes to encourage you to do the thing that God is calling you to do. Hey everyone, thank you so much for coming to Chase and Embrace. And I am on location for a second time. And with me, I have Jessica Wagner with Blessings and Beyond. And I am so excited to talk to you today.
Yes.
It's finally happening. We met at Be Bold for Jesus conference, I don't know, several months ago.
Yeah.
And it finally is happening.
Yes.
Making this.
Very honored to be here.
Well, actually, I should be honored to be here because I'm in your space.
It's okay.
So, 2007, you started a nonprofit, Blessings Under the Bridge.
I did.
And what was the catalyst that made you start that?
Gosh, I was working in upscale restaurants for over 20 years as a server, and that was my escape from what I didn't really make the connection in my spirit that I was in a very abusive relationship. So at that time, I'd been married 17 years to a man that had multiple affairs and was an alcoholic, and also trying to forgive him for those things.
Mhm.
And so it really started with my ex-husband when the Lord said, don't look at the man that hurt you, but look at the little boy that's hurting. So that's when I learned.
Powerful.
So that was when I learned compassion. And I was able to forgive my husband at the time for all the things I'd endured. And then that set the tone for me. So God had pulled me through that and then kept prompting me to go out under the bridge. I'd never been anywhere, serve the homeless or anything like that. So it was literally a calling. So I took $40 of my tips. He was making $200 a day on blowing it on Starbucks or whatever, just dumb stuff that we all do.
Right.
I went to the store and conjured up, the bread and all the things I wanted that I would want in a brown bag. And, great cheese, meat, something sweet. I was putting Q-tips and little wipes in there, just a napkin. I don't know, just I wrapped it up and made a little bag and went out one Saturday, October 7th, 2007, in my high heel shoes, put them all in a pink bag and backseat and case of water and literally drove around Spokane and no direction, no idea where I was going, completely foreign.
Yeah.
I brought a journal with me and took notes of, kind of the whole experience and served a couple of brown bags out my window.
Mm-hmm.
And then I encountered a native man who I just rolled down my window and said, "Are you hungry?" And his eyes were just beautiful. Yes. And I said, gave him the bag and gave him the water. And then I stood there as he walked behind the car. And through the rearview mirror, I could see him going towards the dumpster. And at that point, even the people in my own church, my husband at the time, my friends, they all thought I was crazy. Bring a gun, bring mace, you shouldn't go there alone. But I went literally alone. And I saw this guy going in the rear and looking and kind of like this, and he's in the rear going to the garbage, and I'm like, he's gonna throw it away. Just like everyone says, he just wants money. He thought I'm like, oh, I don't want it like that. And so he goes to the dumpster and he literally sits against the dump, like puts his back against the dumpster and then slides his body all the way down, opens the bag and just shoves the food in his mouth like this. And then that was the defining factor in how I was able to step out and realize, okay, this is where I'm at. So again, that was the first step, but that was only meant for that one day. There was no idea of a nonprofit, no mention of a ministry of any sort, but stepping out on faith is what led to now 17 years later.
Blessings and Beyond.
It's gone beyond.
So when you look back on that day, and we'll get into your growth and all the changes that have happened over these 17 years, what is the thing that you are most impressed or inspired, or since where you started with that one guy sitting at the dumpster?
For me, which I now know was a calling more for myself than anybody, is just realizing that the Lord had called me out to the very place that I felt shunned, rejected, outcasted, unworthy, lost. So I could relate with those people. And it was an honor to serve them. They were there helping me more than I felt I was helping them. And building trust and friendship with people that most people judge, look down on, snare, just have no compassion for. Now these people are driving me to want to go down there every week and give them what I have and just love on them and let them know that they were seen and heard, which not knowing until even years later, that's exactly what I was struggling with. So God began to provide every single thing that I needed for the very purpose that he set me out for, that I didn't ask for, I didn't pray for, but he knew I was willing. And that is what he kept doing. But then not knowing years later that these people became almost like codependent on them, but they were what saved me, because I was not truly dealing with the fact that even though I'd forgiven my husband, that I had actually still, things had not really changed. And so now I feel like the Lord and I were growing a relationship where I want to honor him. So I needed to stay and honor my husband and be that wife that prays, not making any room for my own emotions, my own feelings. So I was able to get my fill my cup through these people that most people didn't care about.
It's so true. I worked at a homeless organization for 15 years, and people don't realize that they didn't grow up one day and say, hey, I want to use drugs. Hey, I want to have a mental health issue. Hey, I want to be homeless. They are hurting people, and they're lost.
Something happened.
And the stories that I heard, anybody would be where they are. It's just, I had to get out because the stories no longer affected me, because your heart can get hardened. And that's when I knew it was time to get out, because I never wanted to be that person like, oh, here's another person that's hitting going through pain and not care. It's all about love. God is love, and we need to show everybody love, whether they are the president of the United States down to someone sitting in a dumpster eating a bag that someone gave them.
It was very easy for me to love these people, but I didn't ever love myself. Mm-hmm. So they were a direct mirror of me, but not just for me. As blessings began to become so large in the community, it became a platform for others. Whether you didn't know God, whether you were, angry father, mother, poor from a school, whatever, Blessings became a movement, which our slogan was live, love, and serve, was providing a platform for people to realize these people are not scary and gross and ugly, because at the end of the day, underneath all of that is a person, and we get to hide our stuff in our own money, our closets, our sports, our habits, where these people are just literally out in the world for the world to judge and throw stones at, when finding out these people actually are amazing, beautiful, hurting, broken people that are very vulnerable. And it works both ways. The same way that we are like, I don't want that person around me. They feel the same way. I don't know who you are. I'm not going to trust you with what I look like and who I am. So it's that stigma that's saying that, there was those people. Well, guess what? Some of us are those people too.
Exactly.
We just have a home and they don't.
Exactly. So I know, because I know a little bit of how your nonprofit grew. So you actually grew from doing those $40, the sack lunches, all the way to thousands of meals a week.
Yes.
How did you get to that?
Those who are faithful a little will be faithful with much.
Yeah.
But we also have to remember, too much is given, much is required. And God has actually been reminding me of that just lately. When blessings grew from 40 brown bags and 40 to 150, and then 8 baskets to 10 baskets to now 8 different stations, I began to create more jobs because people had a heart to serve and volunteer. So I had to make more and more places for them to serve. So now I have a waiting list of 75 people every week serving on one Wednesday night under the I-90 overpass. And it was a full production. Whether it was 7 degrees, it was 100 degrees. We've never missed a week. Now we're throwing in winter events and summer events where now we're serving 1,000 people with 30 different stations. Now you have corporations and Ben and Jerry's and restaurant. I mean, huger, bigger, that need kept driving me to do more without slowing down to see where God had me in between. Yet the grace was, I know exactly why you're running yourself ragged, because you're escaping where everyone thinks drugs and alcohol, the bad things, is obvious. But we all have our own way of coping. It can be busyness. It can be, shopping. It can be gambling or whatever. Or just not sitting still. which that was my thing because of trauma that I'd gone through. I didn't know how to, sitting still made me very nervous.
Mm-hmm.
So I did not know that the whole 15 years I was doing this, is Blessings is now getting bigger. And now I'm in People Magazine, and now I'm on the Rachel Ray Show, and now I've done a TED Talk, and now every award in Spokane, Heroes, this nonprofit of the year, and no one knows I literally feel like this. I could, front page of the paper, and, every desire that I had to make, that I wanted, God provided. Whether it was vehicles that we needed, someone would literally just randomly come by with keys, thank you for what you do. Buildings, here you go, here's a building. If we needed one item, we got 10. We never, ever, ever went without, lacked nothing. And I did this for free for the first 7 years. Mm-hmm. My husband and I at the time, we invested the $40,000 of our savings into this. And so many people know us as the power couple in Spokane. They knew the story of what I had endured, the affairs and all that. But so now people are looking up to us. But now how do you tell the public who's looking up to you that you're really struggling inside? Mm-hmm. Even though it wasn't a facade, I believed in the story, but it wasn't genuine because the relationship wasn't honest.
Right.
It wasn't honest. And so I didn't want to face that because that would bring me more shame.
Mm-hmm.
So as Blessings kept getting larger, I becoming smaller. Mm-hmm. And then at the end of 22, and I did this until 18, 19, until I finally tried to end my life from my marriage, which I now know was the only way God knew I would, is if essentially the house was on fire. That's what it would have taken, or who knows how much more I would have endured. So I left in 18 and go into the whole survival mode, still doing Blessings, even though my heart was now fading from a place because I can't even be present for those people now.
In survival mode, and you're just trying to survive the next moment.
Yeah, and now I got to be in survival to be the face, because now everyone in the community is looking up to me, and now I have to justify where the husband is. And meanwhile, people still praising me and this and that, and I'm not able to even cope with my life. So I continued on that for another 4 or 5 years until the end of 22, when my mom went into ICU for 11 days. And during that time that she was going through that, I told my team, which I never always felt it, but I never said we're leaving or I'm quitting, because I was still holding on to my identity.
Right, it was part of your identity.
What would that look like? Yeah. What would that look like now? I'm now just like the homeless, finding a place that I feel safe with. Why would I want to change? Because the unknown is scary.
Yes, very scary.
Yes, so.
But also exciting.
Yes. So when I said to my team, I just very clearly, I don't think I'm going back to that bridge. And they said, when are we leaving? There was no opposition at all. But then I was like, well, what am I going to do now? Mm-hmm. So there was a phone call that kind of entertained an idea of us doing these meals for the Salvation Army when the largest shelter in Spokane opened up for 350 people. And it was sort of promised to us right at the end of the year, but there was no guarantee, even though I knew my spirit, the Lord was telling me that this is where I'm taking you. Mm-hmm. Because that contract would have been a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And this is where God began to say, those $40 that you spent, I had multiplied all the work that you've done. And what he always shows me wasn't the work as an executive director. It was the work I continued to do, even though I was suffering, and even though I was struggling, even though I didn't want to do it and I didn't want to show my face anymore. I still had to show up. Mm-hmm. That's the work he's talking about. And I hold on to a promise knowing there's no direction. So 3 months later, my mom passes. 3 months later, we get this huge contract. Now we're doing 350 meals 1 day a week to 350 meals 3 times a day for 7 days a week. I immediately thought I was going to take the bridge and put it into the shelter. But I realized that's not my turf anymore. You can't take what we did under the bridge and put it in a building. Mm-hmm. That's when the Lord began to detach me, where the name came Blessings and Beyond, because he's saying, I'm now taking you beyond the bridge, beyond all that you've known, and beyond the homeless. And the last 2 years, that's the transition that I've been in, is I don't know where you're taking me. All I know is I can't grasp. And where that came from was God saying, you're ready now. You're no longer homeless. But you have to believe that for yourself. That you can trust me to take you farther now out of a place that you've never been. And I'm still, till this day, I'm still relying on the Lord to guide me, because if that's all you've ever known, including someone that lives under a bridge, or even if you've been in a job for 30 years, or, a teacher or whatever, or you've been in Spokane for all the years, now you're transferred to it's the same thing. It's your environment can change you emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, all of that. But when I realized that the God was preparing me to go beyond the years that I spent with him alone after my divorce, was he had to build that trust with me for me to be able to trust that closing that chapter was.
That's super important to know, that people don't realize. They think that because they're a Christian, they're not supposed to divorce. Yes, God does not like divorce because he knows it hurts.
It hurts the family, it hurts the kids, it hurts us, it hurts him.
Right.
Because heaven is sacred.
At the same time, he does not want you to be physically abused, mentally abused, cheated on, dealing with alcoholism and the pain that comes with him on that.
It's when you're stripped of your self-esteem. One, you're not hearing God. How can you hear, I love you, you're beautiful, you're worthy, in the same breath or the same time frame that you're being broken down? So that's why I couldn't hear the Lord. And we won't even get into how the enemy works through all of that. And that's all part of that, light versus darkness. And, the enemy wanted me to stay in the dark. He didn't want me to be here and be out and be productive and go beyond. He doesn't want us to go beyond.
Right.
He wants to keep us stuck. And so it's like, whose voice am I hearing? Like, because I always tell people, there's your voice, my voice, and the enemy, God's voice. And, God always say, if it's condemning or is opposite of what I represent, that is not me.
Yes.
So coming out of all that chaos, what am I hearing? And then being scared just to even make any decision, wanting to know, do I push red? Do I push green? I mean, all that trauma just kept me from being able to stand on anything confidently and be okay with, I am making the right choice. And if I'm not, God will fix it. He'll use it for good or something. But not knowing that now, 17 years later, I have 2 businesses that I'm working on where all the profits go back into the community. I have a team of employees where I carried the load for, all those years, doing every aspect of blessings and just crying out of burnout, then not having to learn to accept the help and, trying to not be in control of everything, finding that balance of leading and, not micromanaging. So God has been stretching me in areas that I have never, it's all a new identity. Like, I'm 53 years old but I'm just now coming out of that, that childlike place. Because when I married, I was 15 years old. I was married for 31 years, over half my life, to a man that he was essentially, I don't want to say my father figure, but you know what I mean?
Right.
He was the man in my life that was supposed to show me, be that safe person to show me what's okay. And with no education, he definitely had me under his umbrella. So I didn't know a lot. So having to be retrained or learn new things has been very hard for me. But I mean, the Lord has done all of it for me.
The amazing thing is, God uses the everyday person.
I know, he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies.
And the thing is you have done all of this and accomplished all of this, and you have an 8th grade education.
I know. And including writing a book. I wrote up my first book. And I'll probably working on a few more. We have, as we talked earlier, we have these hopes and dreams, or we see ourselves, what we wanted to do when we grew up, not knowing that we all really paid attention to that. When you hear people say, from when he was a little boy, he just could sing, they didn't know this person was going to be very famous.
Right.
So when I look back, I think when I coming out of all that fog of, stigma and not good enough and all that, I go back now and I just think, oh my gosh, the Lord was giving me desires then. When he says he gives the desires of our heart, it isn't fancy houses and cars and all those things. It's the gifts and the spirit but he also wants to bless us, and he also wants to make us happy in the things that we want that are in his will,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and he's done that after I left my marriage and began to become on my own. I had left with nothing on my back, basically just some clothes and really no, I didn't fight. I just left and got a junky old car, the car that I actually started Blessings with back in '07. So it was over a 20-year-old car that barely worked, had a cracked windshield, tires bald, but that's what I had. God began to provide where the owner of Becker Buick heard my story, gave me a new car. And when that one was ready to go, he gave me upgraded it to another car. When I needed legal help through the attorney, I never saw a bill from one of the top attorneys in Spokane. Never saw a bill. Took care of all my legal services. Gave me a home, and provided for the nonprofit so I could provide my own paycheck. Going through the divorce and the nonprofit piece, that's when the real testimony of God came through, of being my protector, because the real divorce was my ex-husband trying to break me down so that I would leave the organization and close the organization up, because now he's lost his identity.
Right.
So if I'm not there with you, then you can't have any of it. So he created so much havoc within the organization behind the scenes that I did want to quit, and legal battles with the board and just different things. And God provided those attorneys where he ended up just submitting and flopping over and saying, I'm done. Just providing a new board, but the provision never stopped. He just kept providing just enough. Oh yeah, but there was times where I wish that to save face that it would just close. Our funding's low, and I'd be angry because I'm like, no, the reason why I was angry is because he was stretching me. Mm-hmm. And when you have been through trauma, you don't like to be stretched. Mm-hmm. You don't like to go through change. You don't like to be tampered with or anything like that. You just want to be in control of your own life. So if anybody, comes in and tries to shake anything or move it, trust is super hard. So I didn't like that he was stretching me, but it was him that was stretching me, not people.
Right.
And so he was trying to say, I'm not stretching you to hurt you. Yeah. I'm not punishing you. I'm preparing you. I'm protecting you. I'm preserving you in all areas. He kept me faithful as a woman, so I wasn't out dating or doing what people in my situation would do. Right. Out of vulnerability and get myself into another relationship. Did not like that, but I also knew that I was also terrified to put myself out there. I was very damaged. So to see how God has used me and realize the relationship I built with him is a true love relationship, that needed to happen before he could expand me into other areas, because he knows that he's not gonna take me places that's gonna lead me astray or take me places that's going to hurt me or hinder me. Right. And I'm still, at the end of the day, still struggle with that piece of it, because sometimes I say, I don't need any more, God. I'm good. I don't need any more. Enough. No more. No more blessings, because no more responsibility or more blessings comes with more risk. You know what I mean? Yeah, get yourself out here. Yeah. Myself out here. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, no more. Can we just be still for a little bit? But I realized we're always going to be going beyond on this walk with Christ until we're with him. Yeah. And the higher we grow with him spiritually, the closer we are to him. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, I don't even understand his mindset because his ways are not ours. Right. But I came across this scripture the other day as I was in prayer with him. And it says, my understanding is unsearchable. It's like, Jessica, don't even try to figure me out. Right. Just please, because I'm one that asks questions about everything, and I want to understand everything. And he tells me, you seek understanding because that's where you feel safest the most. Mm-hmm. Well, if you just explain it to me and you just tell me how it's going to be and what's going to happen, then okay, I can prepare myself, so it's really trusting the Lord. And I realize our struggles do not stop, because he says he will never depart from us. Right. He'll always find a way to keep us connected to him. So life is never going to be perfect. It's never going to be perfect until we're in heaven. And the thing is, God doesn't give us the next step until we take that first step. Because I really feel like if he told us the whole story of what's going to happen, a couple things will happen. One, we won't need faith, and faith is what builds trust in him. And two, we won't need him,
because if we know what's going to happen, we can just go forth. And 3, do you think Moses would have wanted to know that he was going to save all the people, split the Red Sea, and then live in the desert for 40 years? I think sometimes God's plan would terrify us, that we would be Jonah and go and...
Well, and then be told too, and by the way, you're going to do all of this and you're not going to make it to the promised land, where
Yes.
Moses would have been like, well, what's the purpose then? What's the point?
Mm-hmm.
For me, about right after my mom passed, I was in my prayer closet and the Lord had given me an analogy. The way that he's trained me is through pictures and vision and images and parables and, metaphors. And he given me this vision of a train, and he showed me, and I wrote it all out, it's about to turn a corner and had all these seeds on it. And he began to show me the train metaphor. So because he knew I was going to research it, I want to know how a train's built. I know nothing about trains at this time. I'm like, so I learned about it. And what he showed me, and he'd given me the vision, this train goes on for miles. It's going to be packed with seeds, lots of seeds. Some of those seeds in there are going to be hidden with pestilence and worms. So you know me now, but they're kicking out the side.
Mm-hmm.
The train will go on for miles. You're going to transport, pick up, and drop off. But also it's going to be going so fast that the enemy and anything behind you will not be able to catch themselves on you. Well, when he gave me that, I'm like, okay, a train. So over these years, he showed me, it's called Train Talk now, which has everything to do with where we are today. The R&R, this thing I'm building, the train stations, what we call it here. But he's our conductor.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees ahead of what we can't see.
Right.
And he's never going to mislead. Well, he showed me that I'm in the train, basically like, are we there yet? Where are you taking me? And how he just wanted me to relax on the train and me kicking and screaming because I'm looking out the window, not looking out the window, smelling the roses. I'm literally like, everything's passing me by because I'm not even present. I just want to go, 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 go.
Uh-huh.
And he's also showing me I'm either letting the wrong people on the train, or I've not got on when I'm supposed to, or got off when I'm supposed to, or you've been on this train for so long that you trusted nobody to help guide you, to show you, this person doesn't belong there.
Uh-huh.
Or if those people on there, Jessica, they're going to derail you. They're going to throw you off track. One profound moment that I had as he began to, the way he showed me is he's a conductor, Jesus is the engineer. Just sit with Jesus and have talks with him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't want to be still. Okay, fine. And so one day I'm sitting on the train and my feet are up there and I'm just like huffing and puffing, like, because I want to be obedient. I don't want to argue with him, but I also am like, where are you going? Like this.
Uh-huh.
And so, there's other moments where and I've never been on a train till this day, so that's my dream.
Yes.
But the trains have a place you can sleep. So he'd show me, just go back there and rest, child. And I'd be in there bawling and crying. And, it was a time that he wanted me to rest with him. And the train wasn't going as fast as it felt like because of my adrenaline. But there was time when I was huffing and puffing and he said, you can get off this train anytime you want, but it's going to take you a lot longer to get to where I'm taking you. I'm like, fine. Where he's taking me now is I'm in the front seat with him now. Mm-hmm. And we're worshiping together, or I'm not fighting him anymore. And I respect when he doesn't give me all the answers. So now I've called it the train of trust, the grace train. And, I brought other people on board, or that's how I know. But there's times where he'll tell me, okay, heads up, in about 5 miles from here, we're going to take some rest and stop. Or there's going to be times where I'm not going to tell you where I'm taking you. You're just going to have to trust me. Don't be fixated on the window, But now, as I'm leading in business, he's like, okay, you're sitting next to me. I'm your boss, your manager. You're my supervisor now. So I've trained you to be the head of this train with me. So now you got to be careful who's on the train, because those people, what do they say? One bad apple can ruin a whole tree.
Yeah.
So I've had to go through this part of almost like, oh, but I really want this person here because, I wanted to be on the right train, Well, sometimes we put people on our train and they might seem like they're good, but they're not.
Right.
Or just this person's got to go, next stop. And it's like, oh man, so he's really used the train as a metaphor to show me, the message version of Proverbs 3:5, trust the Lord, and I will direct your paths. It's don't try to figure everything out on your own. And I will guide your, I order the steps of a good man. I establish your steps. But Jessica, this train, one track at a time. And that's not easy for me. But all I know is The Lord has never failed me. He's come through in ways for me that no one will ever know. The intimacy that I built with him was very hard at first because I didn't trust him. But the very first thing he said to me when I first heard his voice in 2020 during COVID, when he had me to himself, was, I understand you. And that stems from me never feeling understood my entire life. For my parents, when my mom died, a month before she died, no one knew she was going to die. She was always sick, but she wasn't terminal. And she came to me and said, I want you to know how special you are. It's taken me over half my life to realize that you're anointed, and I'm very proud of you. So when she died, I got my validation, but I still seek not validation, but I still don't accept that I'm valid to go beyond where God's taking me. And so he knows that it's going to take the right people or the right situations, or it's okay one step at a time. And that is, I'm used to going 0 to 100 all the time because the in between is uncomfortable for me. But I understand.
Yes.
Everything's a process.
Yes. So talk about your new businesses.
Oh my gosh. So when we moved into a new building, because we had the money to afford a new kitchen, every building we had, we paid very little or they were donated. So we were at a school, a Christian school that the kitchen hadn't ran for 10 years. So we got it back to normal. And we got this new place, and it was a restaurant that was only 5 years old. Well, we didn't need the restaurant, and it came with the window for like to-goes or something. Like, we didn't need the window. We just needed the kitchen to do all these big meals. So I said, what can we do with this space? And so we decided to create a little event space and make a coffee window. We called it the train station. And we named the place Blessed. When I moved in here and kind of shared the vision, God reminded me in 2012, he'd given me a vision to have a restaurant place called Blessed. I have it all drawn out and everything. So I was like, oh my gosh, you really do honor. But I didn't know that I was able to do that. So getting through all these 483,000 meals in 21 months is what we did. And so, so we created Blessed Catering. And so we had to get a chef, super amazing chef. And, because we had all the, the equipment, the hot boxes, trailers, trucks from doing all those meals. So we were already set up for the catering. And then also in the same year that I had the vision for the restaurant, was God had given me a vision for these lockers to provide for a man. I saw a old man walking down the road and saw his backpack hunched over, just visualizing everything he owns in that bag, including maybe a picture of his girl when she was 2 and he hasn't seen her, forever. And so I just thought, you know what? That's a pipe dream. I mean, what does that even look like? Again, stupid, not smart enough. So just kind of whatever. It was going to be called Lockers of Love. And then Lockers of Love. So then in, again, 22, so this was the same the train year. That was later that summer, after working with the homeless for so long and finding out the struggle was you can't get an ID without an address and this and that. And a guy had come on board that was very, very young kid, but very, very smart and owned a bunch of businesses. And so he helped me build a business plan, and we decided to call it the R&R, which just stands for Rebuild and Restore Your Identity. So the R&R also for the train track metaphor, right? Crossing over where you were to where you're going. Not knowing that God keeps reminding me, you know what I've been doing this whole time, Jessica, is rebuilding and restoring your identity. The R&R for the lockers, this locker, it started to kind of unfold. Things started happening. And then my brother-in-law, who retired very young in the telecom, built enclosures for cell phone towers. Oh. So he was like, I can build this for you. So I was like, oh my gosh. So he built the first one 2 years ago. And I didn't realize that the timing then wasn't right, not just for many reasons, but for me, and preparing, me in this role. But the vision was more than what I thought, than just an enclosure. So he chimed in, and we ended up creating, that's patent pending now, the first biometric fingerprint locking system. So now in facilities, you can't steal your key card combo or code. Oh. Inside is built-in USB and power, so you can charge your phone, and a built-in mailbox slot. Wow. And so now, currently where we are is we have a list of bids of people that want these, not just in Spokane, but outside of Spokane. So now we're in the stages of getting the manufacturing in order, the patent finished up, and building relationships with businesses in Spokane and establishing those partners to be able to put these in facilities here and beyond Spokane. And then also, the part that's overwhelming to me is people that we're meeting with are seeing beyond just what it's built for. So now they're thinking it's for FEMA, or the military, or for airports, or buses. And so now I'm like, okay, God, he always reminds me of Ephesians 3:20, I will do exceedingly beyond more than you can ask or think. So that's when I'm back in the point where he's like, you got to trust me. I'm stretching you, so I want it, but I really don't want it, because I'm like, a whole other identity, a business. But what the Lord did is he brought smart people, not that I'm stupid, but the people that have skills and education in those areas, budgets, engineering, CAD drawings, patents, things, attorneys. He's provided everything. And I haven't had to pay for any of that. People have just continued to bless me.
I love the locker ideas because, working at the homeless organization, One of the things is you're right. They have every single belonging that they can hold on to.
They're essentials, yes.
And it used to make me so mad when Seattle would go around and just tear down the camps. Most of the time they gave notice, which was great, so they could grab all of their personal belongings that really meant things. But I always felt bad for the ones. I mean, that's all they have. And then a lot of the times they have to run quickly and they lose things. And, there's things that they hold.
If meds get stolen or they do start the road to get their documents, it's, that's a whole vicious cycle in itself, because many times they do make those steps to get what they need, and then their backpack gets stolen, and then now they're defeated and they're like, forget it. I'm not even going to bother. So we're creating structure for the facility, not just for the client, but for the facility, to say, here's what enough for them to store their essentials. We creatively invented this certain size. So it's not just like a long skinny locker with a combo. It's bulky. It's 36 by 18 by 15. Very kind of devil's advocate about, how this is going to be used. But the way it's set up is all through a smart app. So there's no way of theft other than the admin if the person can't get in, and able to track if this person's even utilizing this at all. It's not a place to store, just keep your stuff
forever.
No, it's really to help you cross over and, knowing you can go somewhere, an appointment, job, whatever, and the things are safe, and you can get your mail and start establishing the proper steps. And so I'm reminded all the time as I keep hearing, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, we want to invest or whatever. It is God again showing me this has nothing to do with prosperity or building an empire. I want you to know who's felt like nothing, that you are something, and then I can use anybody to do great things through me. And he already knows I'm going to give him all the glory. I mean,
right.
I cannot tell the story without giving it. I can't. I mean, I have never stopped, even through my suffering, but he still blows my mind till this day. And yet I still question him.
Yeah.
Still try to understand why or where or when. But I've also learned that he knows what's best for us. And I've learned that as much as I'm a go, and it sometimes works in my favor because I'm creative and bouncing around, I really do realize, no, I kind of want things planned out the right way.
Yeah.
So this is not like blessings under the bridge. I mean, that was a pet project compared to this. This
right.
is a completely different avenue of telecom and manufacturing. And I'm just like,
gosh.
Yeah.
He brought you the people that really need to know that information.
Well, that's his example of saying, if I'm going to call you to something, I'm going to provide for you. I'm going to equip you. And that's, I think, the scary part, because God does that to a lot of people. And they're like, it's not enough. It's not enough. It's not enough. Or what are you talking about? Or I didn't see you. And it's like, we forget those humble moments, and I still till this day get excited when someone donates a pair of socks, a blanket. Someone drops by $32 because their child made that money at a lemonade stand and collected. I mean, I never lost that because technically my head was still there. I haven't made the connection that God's taking me beyond that, but I never want to lose the humility of what he's done. And I think people do that.
They do.
They get in corporate world or whatever, and then they don't even know Jesus until they need him.
Yeah, I think pride is a very big thing when you're getting all the awards, you're getting all the media attention, you have a great product that's going to help a lot of people beyond just the homeless. And a lot of people can get big-headed. Unfortunately, it's even with pastors, they get their big churches and all of that, and they get
people are now worshiping man, not God. So when the pastor lets them down, the congregation's let down. It's like, who are you serving to begin with?
Right.
That person's not perfect either. They're also in a place like I was, where they can't tell anybody that they're struggling, when they should trust that they have people wrapped around them. So yeah, it can definitely be an ego thing. And I believe that there's probably a lot of pastors that are in a position where they weren't called to be one.
Right.
It's more of a power thing versus those who are sitting at a desk. God's like, I've called you out.
Yes.
And I was just telling one of my board members the other day, who's a very close friend of mine, we were going through texts about something, and I said, we're not directors, we're disciples.
Yes, exactly.
We're just, that's how I am, and my whole team knows that. And even in my big corporate meetings that I've had about this business, it's somehow or another, it comes up, my faith is very strong. And if you want to dig deep, this locker is a metaphor of me. God created something safe and secure. Not anyone can touch it. Not anyone can just get in there. It's your heart. And I've been rebuilding and restoring your identity. So for me, everything he does in my life personally is parallel to the calling of what he has for me. And I think if more people took the time to just realize that, like where God has you, well, ask yourself, is this where I'm supposed to be? If not, where do you want
Close
me?
the door.
Yeah, but then also realize when you know that he put you somewhere, it's like, okay, then you're going to be honest. Like, you're going to have to get me comfortable because this feels squirmy a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't know. I feel like I love knowing that God already knows that all the profits that I make from this business will pour back into the community. And so I think he will multiply it successfully for that reason alone.
Yeah.
You know, I
Love what you're doing.
Thank you. It's been hard, you know, it's been hard being stretched, but when I go back and look at what I went through, you know, God reminds me you're not there anymore.
Yeah.
But it's just trauma does a lot for you. And I want to mention this for sure is that till this day, and I think this is also why the Lord used me, I never have stopped forgiving that person till this day. He never got ugly side of me. He never got the bitter side of me. I just kept turning the cheek. There's no way possible I would have been able to do that without God's spirit.
Yes.
Because I'm human.
Right.
When you're hurt, you don't feel like being nice. Mm-hmm. But he also knows deep down inside, underneath all that hurt, was somebody that was his spirit. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that's what the enemy didn't want, is he wanted to destroy that piece of me. He never has.
Yes. And I'm so grateful for that, because you have a huge heart, and I love you.
Well, I know, and I'm so honored to be part of these conversations because I feel like, you know, I've had many women ask me when I stayed in the marriage, so are you saying it's okay to be with a man that cheats? It could be man, woman, whatever. I say no. Even if we end up divorced, I still have to forgive him.
Right.
Even if, you know, and this man, mind you, it was a very abusive, physical, emotional, narcissistic kind of, but he's broken. They never stopped. I wanted to forgive him. Mm-hmm. I did so many times. I stayed, but it was almost like I was enslaved to that, where mm-hmm. that's when the Lord said, 70 times 7 you have. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think people forget, well, I've already forgiven him. Well, no, sometimes things flare up in our spirit, or, you know.
Yeah.
No, have you really forgiven? Because it's starting to stir you up with uncleanness again.
Yes.
God's like, nope, it's still there.
Yeah.
You know, so
sometimes it takes time, and sometimes there's different avenues or different things, because it's more than just one thing. You can do a blanket forgiveness, but sometimes there's triggers, and that trigger can cause more pain and anger and all of those things. And so that's just one more thing that you need to forgive. That, you know, blankets can cover you for a while, but sometimes you have to name the forgiveness.
You do. And I feel like even as your viewers, like, I really hope that people understand we all have something. And no matter who you're listening to, for me, I want people to understand I can resonate with people that have been abused and hurt and are angry and frustrated and don't feel good, all those things. But I also know that I wouldn't be able to be where I am without my walk with God. And the beauty of my relationship with God and the way he wants it is when we understand his grace, we can kick, scream, go to him, tell him, be angry, and he can still pat our head and say, it's okay, child, it's okay. And I learned from God that he speaks to me in the temperament of where I am in my present time of my life. So him and I spent 3 to 4 hours a day in prayer for 4 or 5 years because I was alone, and I'm a communicator. So that's how he communicated. But there came a time where he's like, no more talking. You know what I mean? Like, now you're just talking because you don't trust me. You know what I mean? You know what to do. You know what I said. You know that I'm here. No, you're not a child anymore. Like, you need to accept that. So our conversations aren't going to be like that. You can't keep running to my lap like a child. I mean, I'm here for you and I'm comforting you, but you're safe. Yes. You know what I mean? You know that I'm here with you. So you can repeat, believe it or not, people can also hide behind God and be in their own pattern with him, where he's like, I'm trying to stretch you, I'm healing you, but you're not letting me do all the work. Right. You're here, you're willing, but you're not listening. You're not letting me help you.
Oh, and then they bring it back. They
Oh
let
my
it
God.
go.
Oh,
and bring
I
it back.
can't tell you how many times I laid it at the feet of the cross and picked it back up.
Yep.
Laid it back up. So,
Oh, me too. That's
totally. But you know what? He also never says, how many times are you going to pick it back up? He never says that. He just says, I understand why, but let me explain to you why and help you why so you don't keep doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
And I've always noticed, like, in the beginning when you're first walking with God, he's really attentive, he's really there, and he's always communicating and he shows you things. But as you, like you said, as you progress in your relationship and your trust and your faith, he's not there.
That's where the tests come in.
Yeah.
Did you remember what I told you? Remember what I said?
Yeah.
Are you going to follow what remember what and I keep remembering that too. I'm like, oh, like, why are you even coming to me? You already know the answers to these things. Like, but usually it's always the same thing. Like, for me, it's like,
Yes.
like a father, like, just come on. Just child, I know how you're built. Oh, just come on, like that. So, but he does it in a way where I don't feel inferior or intimidated either. Like,
Right.
he's not condemning. He's just like, doesn't say, you know what, do I have to repeat like a earthly father does? He doesn't chastise. I mean, God's put me in my place a few times, but it was a conviction of, me knowing like, whether I thought that way or said that or something like that, better or those kind of things, but never like, I'm going to give up on you because you just aren't getting it figured out now.
Yeah, I know. He's so gentle. He's so gentle. And we need that gentleness.
Well, especially for those women out there that have been traumatized, the tone for me, has everything to do with the people that I receive from in my life. If your tone is harsh, brash, ugly, stern, and I think that comes from my father too. All the men in my life, I'm not going to hear it. You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm more, and when I hear God's voice, it's that way. It's not. It's soft. It's honest. It can be firm, but it's not painful or scary.
Right.
I feel like when we all meet people that are just hard, immediately that they're angry with something or someone, and so that's where pride comes in. God's like, my hands are tied. I can't work with you unless you can at least say, God, I am so prideful, but humble me. I don't want to be like this. Defrost me. I don't want to be frozen, And so the other day I was driving down the road and I was in the car and I said, God, you have been so faithful to me. You just, I don't know if I rant, rave, kick, scream still. You've always come through and you've just been so faithful. And he literally said, but child, so have you. Yeah. And in that moment, I realized he was showing what a love relationship is.
He told me he was proud of me once, and it just like makes you just start bawling. I'm like, wow, he's proud of me, took me 40 years of my life to even have a relationship with him, but yet in this moment he's proud of me, and it's just like,
yeah, because when you're used to feeling like condemned or abused or picked on or words hard to you, it's hard to hear softness. And I think for me, I've always been the soft one and encouraging for others. But really, it's me speaking to myself, but not being able to receive when somebody speaks to me like that. It's hard. It's been hard for me to receive a good word about myself. And I'm learning to now receive, like, I know when God has used somebody to speak to me. Like, if you're not going to hear from me, then at least hear from that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, yes.
Well, I am so happy that you said yes to doing this.
I'm so happy for you. I love seeing God use everybody.